So right-wingers have been going on a bit of a weird case recently. Not in anything particular. I'm just going to kind of cover a few weird things that a few of them have said this week. I don't know. I just been like seeing like a weird influx of videos recently regarding some of the statements they made. So apparently Congress had a hearing on Monday that was, well, as of this recording, was last Monday, in which they were talking about like COVID-19, and obviously Dr. Fauci was brought in because, he was kind of like the face of the CDC and basically was like the person giving out the guidelines, whatever. It's a whole thing. But here we have Marjorie Taylor Greene questioning him during this, and she just ends up making a complete fool of herself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Fauci, you were quoted on CBS Face the Nation saying it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
He's a doctor, so yeah.
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes, you said you represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no answer.
Yes, it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as a you don't know what you represent.
Oh,
But this, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this.
I love how she's pulling the white suburban woman card out here, just being like, as a dog lover, I find these abhorrent. And here's the thing. I obviously find animal testing and a lot of the ways that we use it in terms of like makeup testing, shit like that, very abhorrent. But when it comes to like medical science, as being like, we're doing this to provide like medicine, I personally don't like, yes, I feel like we should definitely be testing it on something before we test it on humans when it comes to like life-saving medicine. Again, makeup, that type of shit, like the cosmetic shit, absolutely not. We should not be using like animals for this. But for medicine, I'm gonna be honest, I'm for it. Like, until we find something else that is a reliable test subject to use medicine for, before we get to human trials when it comes to like, again, medicine, life-saving medicine, then yeah, I'm perfectly fine with animals being used in that case. Maybe hopefully I'm wrong as history changes. Again, I would love to find, other sources, make sure that it is safe for humans. As of right now, yeah, I have no problem with this. And this is what she's referring to. But even though she's wrong, because she's trying to blame Fauci for like this animal experiment, but as we see here from the Huffington Post, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene tore into Dr. Fauci in an off-topic rant before Congress on Monday while accusing him of personally approving disgusting and evil animal testing on dogs that she said Americans have not agreed to pay for. Also, what's kind of funny about that is that if you have such a problem with that, you should also definitely have a problem. And this is something that I am very much against. Not just because of the person involved, because it's just fucked up and insane. You should also definitely be against Elon Musk using monkeys to test his Neuralink, because that is fucked up. If you care this much about animals, shouldn't you be going after him, or is it just dogs that you're testing out? Or is it just like, we draw the line at dogs and nothing else, because I'm a white suburban woman? I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this, the far-right congresswoman told the former head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases while holding up a photo of two beagle test subjects during an unrelated hearing on the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, like, if she has such a problem with like people being tortured and like the treatment of, certain beings, she's obviously not in favor of what's going on in Palestine, right? She's obviously not in favor of what Israel has been doing to Palestinians, right? I'm sure if she hates like torture this much, she definitely, torture for the sake of medical science. She definitely wouldn't be, for torture and murder for racist reasons. Right? As a dog lover, I want to tell you that this is disgusting and evil, what you signed off on, she said while appearing to blame a visibly confused Fauci because of his past role as a director of the NIAID, part of the National Institutes of Health. The type of science you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent and it needs to stop. Oh yeah, she also called him Mr. Fauci, but we'll get back into that. The photo originates from a sand flea experiment involving beagles in the North African country of Tunisia that incorrectly lists the NIAID as a financial sponsor when it was first published in 2021. The NIAID denied financing the experiment, and the study's publisher issued a correction and amid a firestorm of public attacks on the health agency and Fauci, which, as demonstrated through Green's remarks on Monday, continues today. She couldn't even fact check who actually was behind the experiment. She's just using that big mouth to yap and yap like a titan, like the titan she is.
This is disgusting and evil, what you signed off on, and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this.
Yeah, we pay our taxes so that we can bomb brown people and also send weapons to other countries so that they can bomb brown people. That's what we pay taxes for.
So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent, and it needs to stop. Mr. Fauci, you also represent the type of science
Also, of course, she gets this from Daily Mail.
where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including
I didn't hear what you
6
said.
feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You
I
made it
didn't
up as
say
you went.
I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But this is science.
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments. This is what you signed off on.
Oh my god, this dude right here.
These are scientific experiments.
Look at this dude.
This
He's
is
all
what
of
you
us right
signed
now.
off on. But you also told the American people they had to distance by 6 feet. They had to wear masks.
No, obviously, like during like COVID, when it came to like regulations, 6 feet apart masks, there was a lot of confusion during that time. But maybe it's just me. I don't know. Like, to me, it makes sense that when there's a deadly pandemic that happens very quickly because, you know, the president at the time just refused to do anything about it until it was way too late, despite the fact that he knew early on. Obviously, there's going to be, you know, changing information. We're not going to be exactly sure because, again, we weren't aware of this. We didn't know how dangerous it's going to be until way too late because, again, our leader at the time downplayed it. So obviously shit is going to change and you're just going to have to like try to follow up with it. Like, again, science isn't exact, and a lot of science just has to come down to experimenting until you find something that works. There's a saying that the definition of insanity is when you do something over and over and over again and expect a different change. That's not true. That's just called science experiments. Like, just because like you do one experiment and you get one outcome does not mean you will never get another outcome. Like, there's different variables to it, so that's why you have to do it over and over again to see if something changes. I don't know, to me that like the changing of the requirements made sense because like, okay, they're just finding out new stuff about it. They're realizing that it works through different ways and maybe through ways that they thought it did but doesn't. I guess just a lot of people are just so fucking stupid that they're just like, oh, well, that means it's fake.
But let's also talk a little bit further about the type of science that you represent.
Yeah, because when again, just fucking New York Post, again, really great sources she's bringing up. But yeah, when I go to listen to someone who represents science, I go to Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Scientists made $710 million in royalties from drug makers, a fact that's been hidden. Let's talk about the fact about, is it right for scientists and doctors getting paid by the American people, government taxpayer paychecks to get patents where they're paid millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in royalty fees, especially when the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions and advice and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children. Do you think that's a
I'm gonna be honest. Should people who are making medicine, making shit that will overall help people, should they get paid a lot of money? Yeah, no shit. They definitely should be get paid more than Marjorie Taylor Greene, someone who it only strives to make people's lives worse. But like, also this got brought up in like another questioning by some other lady who was a part of this hearing. That's not true. Fauci even says himself in that video that he did not make any money from that.
Appropriate, do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes.
Just Jesus Christ.
Not
Everyone's a god. She's like a theater lib. Just like she's like a theater major. She just has to make a grand show out of everything she does, and it just makes her come off annoying as fuck.
I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Just
Mr. Fauci,
yeah, I'm gonna ask you this question. Actually, I don't need your answer. But again, just making a big show out of it when she's just really making herself look like an idiot.
Objection.
reclaim my
Mr.
time.
Objection.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time,
Gentlelady
Mr.
before-
No.
Rattigan.
Gentlelady
Jesus
with
Christ.
hand.
Mr. Chairman,
Point of order.
just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor?
Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact,
And you don't deserve a government position, but you're still there. Also, she's like literally sit right next to a doctor.
he revoked and he belongs in
Gentlelady
prison.
would suspend. And the gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, is this what we have become?
What is this madness? The government has always kind of been a big joke, but like Marjorie Taylor Greene just has this special ability just to like really show up for the joke that it is. And you gotta kind of appreciate her for that, but at the same time, she's just so fucking annoying. She's just such a dumbass. The only thing she is good at is just using that big old tightened mouth that she has just to fucking yap and yap and yap and apparently suck CrossFitter. You know, that's the only thing her mouth is useful for. It's just yapping this and then sucking off her CrossFit instructor while cheating on her husband. We're gonna move on to Tim Pool, who he had this one girl on. I forget what her name is. Laura Loomer. Like I do kind of follow, you know, some of the grifters on the right. I'm not entirely sure what the fuck this is. Like I have no idea what the fuck she does. But apparently she's like this very far right person that Tim brought on his podcast. And this is what she had to say that made Tim quickly pull the episode.
Should Democrats be in jail? No question. When Donald
Oh yeah, and this was in response to the Donald Trump trial, which he definitely got upset about.
Should Democrats be in jail? No question. When Donald Trump gets elected, should he start locking them up? No question. Should there be lists of Democrats that need to go to jail? 100%. And the reason for that is they've committed crimes. We need to make sure that when Donald Trump wins, we've got an attorney general, a deputy attorney general, a head of the CIA and the FBI, cash.
I also love that he's doing what a lot of Republicans accuse of like the Democrats doing. They're just going after him because they don't like him. That's literally what Tim Pool was saying that he should be doing when he gets into office. Like, do you want to be the pot or the kettle in this scenario? Like, no, he's just an obvious criminal. And by the way, there are definitely a bunch of politicians on both sides that should be in prison. But Tim, he doesn't care about that. He just wants his side to look good, and he just wants to, you know, he's just so angry at the left that he, like, for the statement, he's just like, well, we got to jail them all now or whatever.
Patel would be fantastic. We can
Sounds
have
an
Attorney
unserious
General,
person.
There's some names floating around, and then they can start having their investigators and the feds issuing subpoenas, pulling up evidence, and with real evidence, bring them to judges for warrants. Then these people
With real evidence, unlike that fake evidence. Like,
can spend three years of their lives fighting tooth and nail for the crime against the government for crimes they committed, and we can prove.
Yeah.
And the reason why we put them on trial is that we can show the whole world we will uncover what you've done. We will make sure everyone knows, and you will be held accountable for it.
Not just jail, they should get the death penalty. You know, we actually used to have the punishment for treason in this country.
yep, look at that. It was just like, yeah, we cannot have this. We gotta quickly pull it. I don't even think they're very I'm not even sure. Like, probably the smartest thing he did in that case, just be like, oh, we gotta pull it. But like, you know who this person is. Like, here she is with like Proud Boys and shit like that. Apparently, like he also had another instance. It was like way before this. I think like a few months ago, where he literally had to pull one of his guests aside while they were live and be like, "Listen, man, we told you you can't be making all these like violent remarks and shit like that. Like, we had to pull the episode because of it."
I think it's only fair that I don't take the heat for what you said, Jesse, and I'm not trying to be, but I'm getting people attacking my character now for having had to take the show down because you made 2 allusions to killing people. So I'm not trying to be a right now, but like I've got 500 messages of like, what are you doing? Why are you taking the show down? Are you with us? You're trying to make money.
So I thought YouTube took the show down.
No, I had to take the show down.
Okay.
I had to take the show down because you made 2 allusions within like the span of a couple minutes to murdering people.
Okay.
After I explicitly stated in the pre-show, do not make allusions to violence. Then went on to explain, we keep having people come here and saying they want people killed, or people should kill people, or they can be killed, or things like that.
I feel like if you literally have to pull your guests aside before the show and literally be like, "Hey, don't make any like death threats," don't make any death threats or like violent remarks, you might want to question who you're bringing onto your show. Like, it's not like fucking Majority Report or, you know, any like leftist podcast has to do that. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You should really be having like a holy shit moment when these are the people that you're bringing on, just casually just throwing out death threats. We also have this clip. I think it's from a Russell Brand show. I couldn't find the original clip itself, but this is like it's Russell Brand and Dave Rubin, and Dave is talking about an interaction he had at a Boa Steakhouse, that restaurant in LA, I think.
was the height of COVID and the lockdowns, and I was having illegal parties at my house, and I had to have one of my guys that works for me. I wanted to go to dinner one night. We usually had people come to our house, but one night right before we left, I wanted to actually go to basically the only restaurant that I liked in LA before we left. It was Boa Steakhouse on Sunset. You were probably there back in your day. Do you remember Boa Steakhouse by chance? Yeah. It was just the right amount of Hollywood kind of glittery, but not too awful, and it was the kind of cool vibe there. And I hadn't been in a couple of years because of COVID, and I was like, let's just go. It was the day before we were leaving, when we were officially leaving. And I had to have one of my guys make a fake vaccine passport for me.
So, first of all, he said he had, like, illegal parties, and then he said, I had, like, one of my guys made me a fake vaccine passport. So, first of all, he's just basically admitting to 2 crimes on camera, one of them being falsifying legal documents, which... You know, I feel like that's going to do wonders for him if certain authorities are alerted to that. But
and then I'm sitting at the
restaurant. It gets worse.
And the vibe was dead, and they didn't let people sit at the bar anymore, and people had, you know, the waiters had masks, but you didn't have to have the mask, all that bullshit. And I realized that there were a couple tables of people looking at me and pointing at me. And then I realized it wasn't, well, they knew who I was, but that's not like, oh my God, it was Dave Rubin like that. It was, Dave Rubin's not vaxxed. What's he doing here? Like, in essence, that they thought I was...
Okay, so in order to get to Boa Steakhouse, he had to fake a vaccine passport to convince them that he was vaccinated. But once he got in there, a bunch of people noticed him because a bunch of people know who Dave Rubin is, right? But they weren't, like, looking at him because he was Dave Rubin, who everyone knows. They were looking at him because they were like... Is Dave Rubin vaccinated? In a restaurant where you have to be vaccinated to go in there. Why would people give a shit? Like, the story just seems so obviously fake. First of all, I'm sure that he is vaccinated. A lot of these right-wingers will try to, like, say that they're not or allude to that they're not. They definitely are. But it just doesn't work for their grift. Or else he's literally just admitting to falsifying legal documents, which, if he wasn't vaccinated, I don't think he would do on a video that's just going to be out there in the internet. Second of all, there's no way, like, 3 different tables, which I'm not sure if he said that yet, but he will. I'm not sure if, like, 3 different tables notice him. Dave Rubin, like, obviously I was being sarcastic with, oh, everyone knows who Dave Rubin is. I guarantee you not that many people know who Dave Rubin is. Like, there's so many layers to the story. I'm just being like, he's obviously lying, just at what part? Russell Brand's just seeing it up, I guess.
Lying, because I was in there with the passport, so I had to go.
But, like, again, you have to, like, does everyone else just have fake vaccine passports then? Everyone in that restaurant? Like, why would they give a shit? Like, wouldn't they just be like, oh, he's vaccinated too? Okay. Like, why would they care? Or are they all just faking it?
I went up to literally 3 groups of people to be like, guys, don't worry about it. It was a fake vaccine passport. And I was like, what?
That's even worse, too. Of being like, first of all, just like, I know I had to make sure. I had to make sure. I had to tell him that I'm not vaccinated, that I'm sick. What? That I'm just like, I had to let them know that I'm just not vaccinated. I went up to all these people and told them.
Level of insanity is this is. Think about all the
I'll
thing that you
explain
had.
to you what level of
Yeah. Also, what level of insanity? I don't know. Whatever level of insanity is to fake this entire story. So let me just recap it a bit. So he had illegal parties during COVID. He went to Boa's Steakhouse and faked a vaccine passport in order to eat there. And once he got there, a bunch of people just seemingly, like everyone who was there apparently just knew who he was. And they were just like, he's vaccinated? Dave Rubin is vaccinated? And then he went up to 3 separate tables and told them, hey, don't worry, I'm not vaccinated. At a restaurant where you need to provide information that you are vaccinated in order to eat there, so why would they care? Why would the people who are there care? Because seemingly they're also vaccinated, right? Unless they were able to fake it too. But like, what? It's just like he's definitely lying at some part. Where do you think the lie begins? I'm gonna say all of it's a lie. First of all, I don't think he's not vaccinated. He definitely is. More than likely. Or else because like why would he admit a crime just on the internet or in a video that anyone can see? Second of all, there's no reason that a bunch of people at Bo's Steakhouse knew who he was. It just seems like him trying to like impress Russell Brand of being like, yeah, I get noticed too. And then third of all, him just being like, yeah, so I spent my time there just telling all these people that I'm just easily perceptible to this deadly disease. This guy, Brian Donalds, who I think is trying to be like Donald Trump's new VP or whatever. I don't fucking know. This is him talking about black families.
During Jim Crow, the black family was together. That's right. During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people always have been conservative-minded, but more black people voted conservatively. And then H.E.W., Lyndon Johnson, and then you go down that road, and now we are where we are.
I'm sorry. Indeed. Your eyes and ears do not betray you, Simone. That was Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida romanticizing the Jim Crow era last week. His remarks met with swift pushback from Democratic leadership, but the congressman says his words were taken out of context.
He couldn't have said it more simply. Just being like, no, black families were better when they were under Jim Crow laws. Just some insane statement. I mean, I don't even know. I don't think I really had to say much when it comes to that. Like, obviously he's wrong, but let's get on to like some actual big right-wing news. That is Joe Biden signing an executive action drastically tightening border. And you might be saying to yourself, well, Joe Biden isn't a right-winger. Well, you're very much right on that. He is a Democrat, but this is a very right-wing option. This is very much a right-wing thing for him to do. And this all really comes out from the fact that he's doing this because he wants to show that Republicans just won't play fair. They won't play with the Democratic Party. It's all just fucking like aesthetic shit. But it's stuff that actually has like big consequences, and it's so insane for him to pull this. Because like, yeah, dude, you're trying to out-racist the racist. You can't do that. Like this is like a crime bill Joe Biden right here. Like when he back in the day with like the crime bill, when that got passed, like when they were like bringing that up, he was just like, you know, people always say the Democratic Party is light on crime and we're not strict. Well, you know, because that's a big identifying factor of the left party. Like we should not want to, you know, be so tight on crime. We should want to find other alternatives for these people who are less fortunate so they don't resort to crime. We should not be more restrict on like punishment and shit. We should be more open towards like rehabilitation or like, you know, social security nets. But Biden was just like, no, we're going to be strict on crime because, you know, which is like at that point you're not left wing, you're just a Republican.
The Democrats, quote, bowing to the liberal wing of the Democratic Party. Well, let me define the liberal wing of the Democratic Party. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party is now for 60 new death penalties. That's what's in this bill. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party has 70 enhanced penalties, which my friend from California, Senator Feinstein, outlined every one of them. I gave her a list today. She asked what were in there to be sure. Every one of them. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party is for 100,000 cops. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party is for 125,000 new state prison cells. The liberal wing of the Democratic Party ain't the old wing I knew. So if that's what he defines as the liberal wing of the party, then I suspect I would hate to see the conservative.
But we have this article right here. Facing mounting political pressure over the migrant influx at the southern border from the right, because people on the left just don't fucking care about this. He's just feeding to one side that's just against them outright. President Joe Biden on Tuesday signed an executive action that will temporarily shut down asylum requests over the average number of daily encounters tops 2,500 between official ports of entry, according to a senior administration official. The border is not a political issue to be weaponized, but you're weaponizing it now, because he literally was just like, during the statement was just like, Republicans just won't play along with us when it comes down to this. Like, yeah, they want to be the ones to do this. You're doing something that they want to do. Yeah, that we're the land of the free, but only for a certain amount, only for like a certain number. We're the land of freedom and prosperity, as long as we hit our daily quota. And here's the thing, he has been dealing with a lot of pressure, but like from the left, but it's because of shit like this. Like, does he honestly think this is going to make him look good for his viewer base? He's only really like playing into like the Republican base with this. And even then, they're not going to like this because they're already against him in a big bad way. What does he think this does for him? It's idiotic for him to like play into this shit. And here's the thing, I do want to support this man because he is the nominee for a side that is more in my interest. But when he literally goes out of his way to not play to his base at all, even in performative ways, what does he think the outcome is going to come? Like, he's honestly, I feel like his only hope for his campaign is literally just being like, well, the other side is worse. Well, you should, because that's what he did last time. But at least last time, he played into the base more. Like during the last election cycle, a large part of his, campaign was literally like, we're not going to give into this, like, border crisis shit. It means nothing. But now he's doing that. Because obviously he cares, because he's a racist. Like, this is the same guy who said, you're not black if you don't vote for me. But, like, even then, he still had a bunch of other shit that played into the left that would make people vote for him. But, like, every time he does something, it makes this outcome look worse. And here's the thing. If someone was like, hey, I don't know who to vote for, Trump or Biden, I would still go with Biden. But at the same time, I can't blame people for just not wanting to vote. He does not have people who are left wing's interests in mind. Like, this election should be so fucking easy for the Democrats, but they're just not doing what they need to do in order to make that happen. They're making something that should be a landslide victory into a fucking close contest when it shouldn't be at all, especially with what's been going on last year, like with these last 4 years with Trump. This shouldn't be the case, because like Biden's had some rough moments. Like, there's a lot of stuff you can criticize Biden for. But there's also a lot of stuff that like you can't exactly blame. It's like when Obama first became president and people blamed him for the economy during his like first year or whatever, but it's because he had to operate within the Bush economy for that time until he was able to like resolve it. Like, Afghanistan would not have been great under Trump. Like, that whole ordeal, like, we would not have pulled out, even though it was a good idea that we did. Like, it's a good thing that we pulled out of Afghanistan. And you can't exactly blame him for that, because a lot of the stuff that played into that exit was ruined by Trump during that whole transition. It's just like, and he has had some like good parts too. Biden putting Lena Khan in charge of like the Federal Trade Commission is great because she's been like, that whole commission has been like very tough on tackling antitrust practices. Like, what they've been doing is really good. So he has some victories that he could play to, and like, you know, talking points that he could push to be like anti-Trump, you know, really play into the left-wing politics side of it. But he's just not doing that. He's shooting himself in the foot over and over and over again. And, you know, his position on, you know, what's been going on with Israel and them just like fucking killing thousands of Palestinians isn't exactly helping him out either. That's all I really gotta say. Just a lot of stupid shit from right-wingers, and Biden just pulling a big right-wing move.